I've come to realize that for the vast majority of people, they've lived their lives by keeping quiet about their money. We're taught by our parents and we're taught by our family and we're taught by our friends that we don't talk about money, right? We don't want to be the tall poppy that's braggadocious and talking about all of the amazing things that we've achieved. My old man used to say to me, don't tell people about what you've achieved or what you're working towards because they'll put curses on you. Maybe some of you have heard that before. And on the flip side, you don't want to be the lame duck. You don't want to be the one that seems like you're falling behind, that you're behind the eight ball, and that you're not keeping up with all of the people that you surround yourself with. And whatever the scenario may be, whether you're on one side or the other or somewhere in the middle, keeping those experiences to yourself is going to have power over you. We don't want that. We want to use money as a vehicle that supercharges our way to creating true financial freedom. And that's what I want to share with you guys today.
Jackson Millan is a man that I met probably about a year ago. And yes, very unusual looking man. He's kept his hair short. I remember when he shaved his head, and that was a very interesting scenario. But Jackson is also known as the wealth mentor. He runs a company called Aureus Financial. Did I get that right?
Nailed it.
Awesome. And look, the reason I got him on the call today is he's spent a lot of time in wealth creation. And, you know, it's one of those things we as business coaches get helping people grow their business, but often they get so enthralled in the business, they forget about the leftover bit and what to do with it. And when I heard about Jackson's wealth creation ideas and strategies, he actually had some really clever ways of helping people do something with the money. Because when I first started, we used to talk about a thing called the profit account. And we used to say to the business owner, you create a profit account and you take a percentage of your revenue and you whack it in there. And people did that. And they said, you know, it's funny, we can still run the business without that money. What do I do with it? I said, just keep adding, keep adding, keep adding. That becomes either your war chest or it becomes your long-term investment strategy. But when I heard about Jackson's approach to this, I thought I'd get him on the call today so he can share some of his insight as to what to do with all that extra money. And if you don't have it, how do you create the vacuum that takes it out of your business and puts it into your wealth creation? So Jackson, over to you.
Fantastic, man. I really appreciate the warm welcome. And guys, really looking forward to presenting to you all today. Now, I'm sure this is going to be no surprise. I know you're all super engaged. You've taken time out of your businesses, out of your lives to be here. But we can do this session in kind of one of two ways. We can keep it kind of one way where I give you a whole heap of theory. You might take a whole heap of notes and hopefully you'll get some valuable insights. But that's not a lot of fun. I want to keep this two-way for a couple of reasons. I want us to have a conversation. I want us to share. I want us to open up. I want us to explore some things that are often taboos that we typically don't talk about. Because over the course of the last 15 years, as I've been developing this framework that I call the $1 million mindset, I've come to realize that for the vast majority of people, they've lived their lives by keeping quiet about their money. We're taught by our parents and we're taught by our family and we're taught by our friends that we don't talk about money, right? We don't want to be the tall poppy that's braggadocious and talking about all of the amazing things that we've achieved. My old man used to say to me, don't tell people about what you've achieved or what you're working towards because they'll put curses on you. Maybe some of you have heard that before. And on the flip side, you don't want to be the lame duck. You don't want to be the one that seems like you're falling behind, that you're behind the eight ball, and that you're not keeping up with all of the people that you surround yourself with. And whatever the scenario may be, whether you're on one side or the other or somewhere in the middle, keeping those experiences to yourself is going to have power over you. We don't want that. We want to use money as a vehicle that supercharges our way to creating true financial freedom. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. So what I'd love you all to share in the chat is let me know what financial freedom means to you. What is your definition for financial freedom? Take a couple of minutes, have a bit of a think about it, guys. Is it a word? Is it a sentence? David, passive income. I love that. Fantastic. We'd all love a bit of passive income. What else have we got, guys? Ability to choose what to do with our time. Yes, 100% Damien. Rob, security. Beautiful. Let's get a couple more coming through. Choice, Patrick. Yes, beautiful. Fantastic. All right. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about the specifics of financial freedom, but the real purpose of this masterclass is that I can give you strategies and tactics, okay? But there comes a point in time where we chase strategies and tactics, but then we hit our head up against this invisible ceiling. This invisible ceiling that seems impossible to push through and typically ends us in this vicious cycle of perpetuating the exact same results over and over. I've seen this happen with thousands of business owners the world around. And the problem is that most of us, because we've been conditioned to play in the realm of strategies and tactics, we actually don't take enough time to upgrade, renovate, and optimize our financial operating system. This is what I call the $1 million mindset, because you will never outgrow yourself or your internal operating system when it comes to money. And that's particularly what I want to help you lift the lid on today. Now, you might be wondering, as David rightly said, I'm a bit of a weird looking fellow. I don't look like a typical finance guy. I was just saying to Kel that I busted out my long sleeves today for the first time in a very long time. And many people refer to me as a bit of a mixture between a homeless person and a hipster. And I've been called worse. They wouldn't be too far from the truth. But I'm Jackson Millan. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. And I got involved in this space because I didn't want to be a typical finance guy. I wanted to help people like my parents who were business owners like you. My mum was a hairdresser. She worked incredibly hard to scale a salon for the majority of my childhood. My old man was a tradie. He tried his hand at lots of different trade businesses, but the grass was always greener on the other side, and he was always chasing new opportunities. But the common theme for my parents is that they worked incredibly hard, 16-hour days, 7 days a week for as long as I could possibly remember. And they always said to me as a kid, Jackson, if you want to be successful in this world, you need to work hard for it. Who heard that as a kid? Yeah. But as a curious kid, I realized that there was something missing. There was something wrong because they were working incredibly hard to just survive. And what I come to realize is that they were working for money as opposed to money working for them. Now, my story of money mindset starts with my old man. My old man, Mario Millan, was my hero. He taught me everything that turned me into the man that I am today. And my old man decided that he was actually going to work night shift when I was a kid so he could be there for me in the morning to get me ready for school, take me there, pick me up in the afternoon, only to rinse and repeat that process again every day. Now, we didn't have enough money for a car as a kid. My dad had a bicycle. And on the back of his bicycle, he fabricated a small seat that I would sit on and I would cling to his back as he would pedal to and from school every day. Now, heading to school every day, there was a hill that he needed to climb. And he tackled that hill with the exact same strategy every day. As he struggled to pedal up it, he would repeat the same 4 words religiously. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. You see, this became a metaphor for his life. He worked incredibly hard to buy into this 40-20 trap. The idea that you work 40 years, you retire at 65, and then you enjoy 20 if you're lucky. Like, who's motivated by that? I know I'm certainly not. But that was his choice. Now, we fast forward to 2017. My old man was 66. 1 year after he should have been living the dream and being in retirement, doing all of the things that he'd worked so hard to create for himself. But this time was different. This time, my dad was lying in a hospital bed. He was clinging to life. He'd been diagnosed with late-stage pancreatic cancer, and he'd been given weeks to live. Harsh reality. And as he lay there, and he pondered his life, he regretted a lot of things, and he gave me one last piece of advice. He said, Jackson, every single person in this world has 2 lives. And your second life starts when you realize that you only have one. And he died shortly thereafter. And my second life started on that day because I realized that there needed to be a better way. And that way that I went on to develop in tribute to my father is what we call the wealth mastery machine. Because we all want financial freedom, this cushy thing in the middle, right? To be able to do what we want, when we want, how we want, if we even want to do it at all. But there are 3 problems, guys, and we're going to unpack these problems today. 1, you don't have a plan. You don't even know what financial freedom really means, let alone how you are going to get there. So you typically fly blind. 2, you don't have the cash. You know you should be buying property. You know you should be investing in the share market. You know you should be putting money into your super or your 401k or wherever you are in the world, your KiwiSaver, but you just don't have the financial means to do it to the level that you know you should. And 3, you have no consistency. You've been on this vicious roller coaster ride and you're never quite sure when the next event is going to happen that hits you for a 6. And for that reason, you do nothing. So guys, let me know, which of these 3 things is playing out most for you right now? Is it no plan? Is it no cash? Is it no consistency? Let me know in the chat. Is it all of the above? Yes, that's okay, Marion. We're going to work through that. What else we got, guys? No consistency, Craig? Okay. All 3, but mostly cash, Claire. Okay, no problem. We're going to work through that. So let's unpack this for a moment, guys. We call this a machine because what is a machine? A machine is something that produces a regular, consistent, repeated result. Who can explain their financial management in that way? For the vast majority of us, no. We are knee-jerk, reactive, emotional, if we ever get a spare moment. It's an afterthought. So if we want to turn our money into a machine, we need to firstly define exactly what we want and, more importantly, why we want it. We then reverse engineer that into a roadmap that allows us to create, to maximize our cash flow and systematically turn that cash flow into personal wealth. And then we need to manage it effectively so it can continue to build and grow. Really simple, but it creates a seamless system that gives us control over our money. So out of these 3 parts, define, create, manage, which one do you think needs the most attention for you right now? Do you need to define what you want to get more clarity on it? Do you need to start creating and creating more? Or do you need to manage better what you've already got in place? Or once again, all of the above. Let us know in the chat. Probably manage. No worries, Mary. We can work on that. Define, Craig. Cool. Okay. Create for Jacqueline. Define and manage. Define. Cool. Bit of a mixed bag. Okay. What we're going to do here, guys, is that we're going to actually zoom out a little bit and look at this entire system. Okay. And by doing this, this is going to allow us to get an idea of exactly where the low-hanging fruit is. Now, what I want to share with you guys is a resource that I hope is going to help you identify the low-hanging financial fruit, both personally and in your business. Over the course of the last 15 years, I've identified that there are 40 things that get in the way of business owners creating financial freedom. The average score is 18 out of 40, which is a little bit scary. It means most business owners are below average. I'm going to drop that link into the chat for you. And I want you to complete it. And I want you to drop your score into the chat. I don't care if it's 5 or if it's 35, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to focus on the things that you can turn from a no into a yes over the course of the next 30, 60, or 90 days, okay? And that's going to form part of the work that you do with Dave and the team, and hopefully we'll give you some things to focus on as part of what we're going to be talking to for the rest of this masterclass to help you level up that score really, really quickly. Cool? So I hope you enjoy that resource. So let's get stuck in, guys. Who here believes that they have a positive relationship with money? Yes or no? Or is it love-hate? Do you get along with money? It's improving? Awesome, Marion. Great. You see, in my experience, I found that for a lot of people, particularly business owners who are growing, is that we develop this pattern of cash and money being easy come, easy go, right? Like just as soon as we make it, it seems to slip through our fingers. And what I've identified is that there are 5 key money traps that get in the way of you getting the results that you really want. We've spoken about a couple of these already, but let's go deeper on this. Number 1, you don't have a plan, or your plan is one-dimensional. Like you're like a horse with your blinders on, right? You focus on one goal at a time. I want to buy my home. I want to pay it off. I want to buy a car. I want to go on a holiday. I want to send the kids to a nice school, right? You've got this one goal, and then something always comes out of the periphery that competes for those resources, and you now need to make a scarcity-based choice. Who's felt that before? It sucks. I don't want to choose. I want everything. I want to have my cake and eat it too. Second thing, no education. Like, where have you actually learnt about money and finance? I know I certainly didn't learn anything at school that was practical that I've been able to use in my life. Like, for most of us, we learn through the school of hard knocks. We learn from our parents. My parents tried really hard to teach me lessons, but they could only teach me lessons from their own first-hand experiences, which were subjective and didn't necessarily serve me, because they certainly didn't serve them. And what about support? When was the last time that you spoke openly and honestly about your money? Good, bad, or indifferent? Because there's so many taboos around money that we end up just keeping it to ourselves. And then what about bad habits? Have you got bad habits that rear their ugly head, particularly when you are stressed? I know I've certainly been guilty of using a bit of online shopping or some window shopping to take the edge off after a stressful week. Typically, spending can be a way for us regulating our stress levels. And I'm sure you can agree that business is stressful, and that will always be the case. And then what about control? Have you ever found yourself thinking that you've absolutely crushed it in your business, and only to look at your bank account and to have a sharp inhale of breath to go, oh, where's all the money gone? So guys, let me know, out of these 5 money traps, which ones are affecting you the most right now? Is it no plan? Is it no education? Is it no support? Is it bad habits? Is it no control? And be honest here, guys, we're in a safe space. You're surrounded by your peers. There's no judgment here. Yep, no plan, bad habits, no control. Thanks for sharing. Bad habits, no worries, Rob. We're going to work through that. No plan, Claire? Cool. Okay, we're going to work through that. All right. So whatever your money traps are, we've got to realize that the experiences that we keep experiencing are as a result of patterns and behaviors that we have hardwired over our entire lifetime, right? And the biggest problem that we have as entrepreneurs is that we're so busy looking forwards that we actually take very little time to look backwards and see where we've come from and what got us to where we are. We're overwhelmed by the day-to-day tasks, and we spend very little time to reflect on what actually got us to our current state in life and business. And it was famously said by Winston Churchill that those who fail to learn from history are bound to repeat it. So is it any surprise that you keep getting served up the same old things over and over again? You keep hitting those same invisible ceilings? So what we firstly need to do here, guys, is we need to pay homage to where we've come from. We need to reflect on it. We need to understand why these patterns and behaviors are what they are, and then we can learn and optimize them so then we can move forwards properly. So what I've worked out, guys, is there's basically 5 key stages that we develop what we call money memories. I'm going to call these out, and what I want you to do is to think about the first memory that jumps to mind for you. It's typically the first one. And what I want you to do is I want you to try your best to distill it and explain it in the chat, okay? And share with as much detail as you're comfortable sharing, okay? And the reason for this is that the first memory that comes up is likely going to have some significance in the behaviors and the habits that you exhibit today. So the first one is what we call school you, or this is your earliest money memory. It's typically a money memory that comes to mind between the ages of 4 and 18, okay? What is that first money memory that comes to mind for you? For me, I was about 10 years old, and I remember coming home from school and walking into the house, and on the kitchen table, there was a pile of unopened bills. Now, at 10 years old, I didn't really quite understand what a bill was, but I knew it was wrong that it wasn't open. So I asked Mum, I said, Mum, why haven't you opened those letters? And she immediately responded, Jackson, I already know what's inside. There's no reason to open them. Powerful. What is the first money memory that jumps out for you? The CBA piggy bank, the old Dolomites program. I love that. My 10 cents a week pocket money. Awesome, right? Craig, parents' supermarket business. I'm sure they worked hard, mate. Not an easy business. $0.50 a kilo to kill and clean a chook. Love that, Stephen. Miriam, serving customers in pharmacy was 10. Love that. Fantastic. Irene, first job was 87 cents an hour and was raking it in. Love that. Jacqueline, money doesn't grow on trees. Yes. How many of us have heard that from our parents, right? I still remember my dad chasing me around the house, turning off all the light switches that I'd left on. Tim, first paycheck as a paper boy. Beautiful. Keep them coming, guys. Love this. Now, our next money memory is real world you. This is when you became an adult. You took on adult responsibilities. Maybe it's when you got your first job. Maybe it's when you moved out of home for the first time. This is when you're like, oh, wow, okay, this is what it's like to be an adult and have adult responsibilities, right? My real world you money memory was my first full-time job. I'd left school and I thought I'd done a really good job to negotiate a good salary. And in this particular job, I got paid monthly. And I hung out for an entire month to get my first paycheck. And I'd already kind of spent the money in my head. And then when I checked my bank balance on payday, I go, wow, I've been shortchanged. I went and spoke to my boss. My boss took me aside and sat me down and took me through my pay slip and explained to me PAYG and superannuation contributions. And I'm like, oh, crap. I didn't think about that. But that was a harsh reality. My first run in with the tax man. Marion, a little bank book we had to bring to school once a week to bring some money deposit. Yep, I always forgot to bring it and was very embarrassed not to have it. I appreciate you sharing, Marion. Craig, moved out of home at 19 whilst at uni and living week to week on my part-time wage. It's a struggle, huh? Keep them coming, guys. What's your real world you? Your first adult financial responsibility memory that you can think of? Marion, must save 10% of whatever you earn was drummed into me. Yep. Jacqueline, first pay was $34 a week. Damien worked in supermarket for $3 an hour. Now, our next stage is Street Fighter You. This is when you first got into business and you realized what it was all cracked up to be. Because I know for many of us, when we first get into business, we don't realize what we're getting ourselves into, all of these responsibilities that nobody talks about, right? For myself, it was another tax situation. So I had my first full year in business and I thought I'd done really well. And I thought I'd been smart enough to set some money aside for tax. And I got to the end of the financial year. I sat down with my accountant. I did my tax returns, and he said, "Congratulations, Jackson. You've got a $50,000 tax bill and you've got 30 days to pay it. See you next year." Oh, shit. I don't have $50,000. I didn't set that money aside. So I ended up having to go on a payment plan, general interest charges, all while trying to have to save for the tax that I was going. Anybody who's been on a tax payment plan knows exactly how I feel. And it was embarrassing. It was a struggle, but I got through it. But it was a harsh lesson. What's that first money memory in that Street Fighter stage of business? Stephen, the joys of a tech startup living off credit card. Yeah, I get you. And Jess, thanks for sharing. Yep, for the real world you, first job wage was too low, had to borrow money from dad to sustain till payday. David, getting first client to pay so I could pay wages that week. Wow. Claire, having to battle with the first client that couldn't pay us. Damien, thinking the same hourly rate as a job was enough to charge as a business. Yeah, super common, right? Overlook all of those overheads and all the expenses associated with it. And it's also when we're working for somebody, we're like, oh, the boss, he's rolling in it. If I just go out on my own, everything's going to be great. Craig, eating into savings to build up the business. Keep them coming, guys. First residual income, Jacqueline. I love that. Nothing quite like residual income, is there? Love it. Patrick, trying to break even with the gym, having a terrible pre-opening, not many members signed. It's when you know, you're like, I'm going to crack this. Everyone's going to turn up. I've been there, mate. I've been there. I feel for you. Marion, living on a shoestring to build first business, very, very stressful with a young family. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. Thanks for sharing, guys. Now we get to growth you. Growth you is where you felt like you started to hit your strides. You started to get success in your business. You could see the light at the end of the tunnel. You could see your hard work really paying off. And for me, it was when I first crossed over my first seven-figure business. Because up until that point, guys, I really struggled with self-limiting beliefs. I had this little voice in my head that would tell me that I was a fraud and that I was a failure, that I wasn't worthy and that I was going to lose everything. And it really affected me. And it was about the time that I crossed over seven figures that I saw an interview with Bill Gates. And the reporter was asking Bill, do you ever suffer from self-limiting beliefs? And he said, every single day. The reporter was shocked, like looking at Bill Gates like a god. I mean, I know I certainly did. And he goes, wow, okay, well, how do you deal with it? And he said, well, every single day I've got this little voice in my head that tells me that I'm a fraud, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy, I'm going to lose everything. And I've made it my life's mission to go on in spite of that little voice. Light bulb moment for me. Changed everything. What is that growth you money memory? Doesn't matter how big or small. It's even okay if you feel like you haven't got there yet. First retain a client. Yes. Discovering the power of annuity and a customer funded business. Beautiful. Claire, the more you have, the harder it can be to manage. Yeah. Bigger businesses can mean bigger stress, right? Patrick, discovering the potential ROI of a successful gym. Yes. Stephen, the 5 Ps, plan, plan, plan. Love it. Jacqueline putting 10% away for investment. Beautiful. So now we get to current, you guys, where you are right now. I want you to look back on these money memories that have come up for you. The school you, the real world you, the street fighter you, the growth you. What are the common themes, the constants, the things that keep coming up? You see, for me, I'd spent my entire life moving away from pain. And I inherited that from my parents. They were battlers and they wore that like a badge of honor. They always seemed to be in a really difficult situation. And for a very long time, I felt sorry for them. Like, wow, they just can't catch a break. They just keep getting dealt shit cards. It was when I discovered through one of my first mindset coaches, he said, Jackson, the situations you learn to survive, your survival ultimately depends upon. Our brains are efficient. They create synapses and pathways. And if you've survived a situation, your brain subconsciously knows that if it puts you back in that situation, you can get out of it again. And I'd spent my entire life doing it. Back up against the fence and fighting my way through. It's not healthy. So when I got to that growth you phase and the penny dropped for me, I shifted from moving away from pain to towards pleasure. And it is that shift that has allowed me to create financial freedom by 33. To build a $6 million business with a team of 25, and ultimately be able to create financial freedom now. How much more enjoyable is that than constantly having your back up against the wall? So what do you observe? What are your constants? Marion, fear gets in the way. It's a huge thing. There's so many people. What else, guys? The fun of chasing growth. Yes. It can be addictive, right? But there's nothing quite like the thrill of chasing that growth. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Patrick, seek challenges because they will be there, whether you're successful, profitable or not. 100%. Yeah, there's always going to be challenges. It just depends what kind of challenges you want to be dealing with. Great share. And the second part to this, guys, is that if you look at your trajectory up until now, do you feel that you are on the right trajectory to create financial freedom? Or does something need to change? Do you need a course correct? Marion, yes. And that is the way I started business coaching to help me. Beautiful. Yeah, you're in the right place. And sometimes this is all we need. We just need some affirmation that we actually are on the right track. Takes the fear out of it. Who else wants to share? Jacqueline, personal development makes the difference. Yes. Mindset. Beautiful, Claire. Yeah. You're in the driver's seat, guys. You're in control of this stuff. Just got to take the time aside to calibrate. So quick pulse check. From this exercise, what are your takeouts? What are your light bulb moments? Tim, change your mindset from working in the biz to working on the biz. Beautiful. Irene, the fear of funding the growth Stephen is chasing. That's all right. Always good to have some different perspectives so you can rope them in, Irene. Plan. Beautiful. Got to let go of the stuff, Marion. Yes. David, relationship with money drives behavior. 100%. We never make good decisions out of fear, right? If we can make decisions out of abundance, they're going to serve you a whole lot better. Damien, getting stuck in patterns that aren't helpful. Yes. Sometimes we've just got to get out of our own way. Beautiful, guys. Really great insights. So let's shift the pace a little bit here. We're going to start talking about defining the destination. Jacqueline, yes, looking back to where you are now. Beautiful. When was the last time that you actually sat down and asked yourself what you're working so hard for? Why are you chasing the growth? Why are you doing what you're doing? Is it a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago? You can't remember? When was it? In my experience, for the vast majority of us business owners, we're just stuck in the habit of being busy, right? And busy doesn't mean productive, nor does it mean that it's going to get us any closer to our dream destination. The reality is, if you want to scale a successful business, you need to know what you are working towards, because your business is a vehicle. It's the best vehicle for wealth creation. However, we need to know where we're steering it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of a mindset exercise, guys. Just out of interest, can you let me know in the chat, have you done any mindset work before? Yes or no? Just want to get a bit of a gauge of the room. Not yet, Jess, that's okay, cool, all right. So when I first started working with my first mindset mentor, I was very kind of skeptical. I'm like, this is like woo-woo bullshit. And he said to me, Jackson, the mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open, okay? So I want you to approach this exercise with an open mind. And if you're happy to do that, just take this with a grain of salt, but approach it with an open mind. I just want you to type open into the chat, cool? Beautiful, great, fantastic. All right, so here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to sit comfortably in your chair with your feet firmly planted on the ground. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to focus on your breathing. I want you to breathe in through your nose. Out through your mouth. And I want you to clear your mind. I want you to let go of any stress, anxiety, distractions. And with your mind clear, I want you to visualize standing in front of you is a current version of yourself. Visualize this current version of yourself standing in front of you. And I want you to ask yourself, what would you like? What would you like? And what will having that do for you? And what will having that do for you? And when, where, and with whom do you want it? When, where, and with whom do you want it? And how will you know once you have it? And how will you know once you have it? And what might you lose in the process? And what might you lose in the process? Now, with all of that being considered, what would you like? Now, with all of that being considered, what would you like? And when you're ready, open your eyes. Welcome back. So, while it's fresh in your mind, I want you to chuck up in the chat, what would you like? What did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel? What would you like? Damien's all about the cash. Love it. To see the cash just cascading around you. I can visualize it now, Damien. Health, Kelly. I love that. Beautiful. Super important. Claire, the lifestyle for my family. Great. Great. Financial security for me and my kids. Amazing. Foundation set up, Jacqueline. Yes. Marion, my kids to be happy and comfortable. Miriam, contentment. Yes. David, to help more people find freedom. Beautiful. Jess, happy and content life with family. Great. How simple is this? We gave ourselves what? Not even 10 minutes to ask some really simple questions. What would you like? When was the last time you did something like this? Tim, yeah, time to travel with my family. Beautiful. Create those experiences and memories, mate. That's what it's all about. So try and add this into your 90-day planning. I'm going to give you some other exercises and resources that are really going to help you get clarity on what you would like, actually break it down into a roadmap, and then turn it into a strategic plan. So let's get some more detail in this, guys. So there's a resource that I developed many years ago that we call the annual roadmap. Now, quick question for everyone here. If you can let me know in the chat, how far in advance do you normally set your goals? Is it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Is it more? Is it less? 12 months, Craig? Usually a year for Jess. Yep. Cool. What else we got? 5 years, David? Okay, great. Now, what if I said to you guys that we were going to create a 20-year roadmap here today? How do you feel about that? 20. Yes, Mary, 20. I'll be old. That's okay. Nothing wrong with being old. You see, I realized that for so many of us, particularly entrepreneurs, we have been conditioned to be short-term thinkers. Like even many of us think that 3 years or 5 years is long term. It's really not. And I struggled with this for a very long time. As an adult, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and I had struggles with it my entire life. And for that reason, I was never very good at planning. I was never good at deferring gratification. My parents always said to me, "Hey, Jackson, you got to put money aside for a rainy day. Like save 20% of everything that you earn." I'm like, stuff that. I just want all of this stuff now. And it plagued me for my entire life and my early adulthood. But I got to a point in my mid-20s where I got really frustrated with the fact that I just couldn't defer gratification. And I started searching for answers. And I discovered this experiment called the Marshmallow Experiment. Who's heard of it before? No? Yeah, some of you have. Cool. For those of you who don't, I'll give you a bit of a crash course. So Stanford University wanted to do a study to work out whether people were born with the ability to defer gratification, to sacrifice today to have more tomorrow. So they took 4 and 5-year-old kids and they put them in a room and they gave them a marshmallow. And they said, "Hey, here's a marshmallow. I'm going to leave the room. And if I come back and you haven't eaten the marshmallow, I'm going to give you a second marshmallow." They didn't tell the kids for how long, but it was for 15 minutes. And they were able to work out that 2 out of the 3 kids would eat the marshmallow in the 15 minutes. Some at 1 minute, some at 5 minutes, some at 14 minutes and 50 seconds. But 2 out of 3 would eat the marshmallow. And 1 out of 3 wouldn't. They could visualize the goal. They could keep themselves occupied and distracted in order to double their yield. Which kid are you? I'm the 2 out of 3 all day. I would have eaten the marshmallow before they finished speaking. Are you the 2 out of 3 or are you the 1 out of 3? 2 out of 3, yep. I want the marshmallow. Yep, I'm with you, Kelly. Yep, def the 1 out of 3. Okay, cool. Now, what I ask myself is, who wrote these rules? What if I don't want to be either? What if I want to have my cake and eat it too? What if I want to be able to eat the marshmallow now and get 2 marshmallows later? And it's with this concept that this exercise was born. Because you're entrepreneurs, for God's sake. We don't need to shrink ourselves wealthy, guys. What we need to do is we need to learn how to be better planners, therefore be able to define the financial means required for us to do everything we want. And it is only in the absence of those means that we need to make a scarcity-based choice. Game-changing thought, right? So here lies the annual roadmap. Fundamentally, it is based about us documenting all of our goals over the short, medium, and long term, allowing us to work out the means required to have everything. Because if we can map things out for 1, 5, 10, 15, 20 years and reverse engineer that into an action plan, and then we can work with David to say, "Hey, this is exactly what you need to do in your business to achieve all of your personal goals," what's going to stop you? How much more motivated are you going to be to go do the work and hit the targets, right? Secondly, most of us have this constant to and fro between lifestyle goals, goals that add quality to our experience, holidays, cars, hobbies, interests, and financial goals, the smart adult stuff that we know we should be doing. Buying a home, paying it off, building a property portfolio, creating passive income, saving for the kids' future, right? So let's map it all out. So question for you. Are you more motivated by lifestyle goals or by financial goals? Just let me know in the chat. For me, it's all about lifestyle. It might be a surprise. I'm not motivated by financial goals. Money is a means to an end for me. Yep, lifestyle. Yep, cool. All right, great. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to spend 10 minutes on this exercise, just 10 minutes. We're going to spend 5 minutes aside. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to get at least one goal in every box here. Okay? We're going to start on the lifestyle side. We're going to start at 1 year. We're going to work our way up and get at least one goal in each box. If you can get more, fantastic, but at least one. It's holidays, it's experiences, it's hobbies, it's interests, it's cars, it's toys, all of these quality experiences that you want. Now, I know what you're going to think. You're going to say, hey, I don't know what I want next year, let alone what I want in 10 years. But does that mean we should plan for nothing? Whatever you put here is going to be a placeholder, okay? And that's going to hold a place to produce enough financial means that we can use for whatever else it is that you want at that stage. Cool? So I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. I'll let you guys know when we're about halfway. Get stuck into the lifestyle side and dream big. All right, so we're getting to about halfway, guys. So you should be getting to about 10 years. So think, what do you want your work-life balance to look like? Are there hobbies and interests that you'd like to take up that you've always had on your bucket list to do? Would you like to be able to outsource certain chores, whether it be cooking or cleaning or whatever else that it might be? Are there certain rewards that you'd like to get? Is there a special watch that you want to reward yourself with? The old vintage sports car? A big family trip to Disneyland? And also think about how you might elevate your lifestyle goals. So maybe you're spending 20K a year on holidays at 10 years. Maybe by the time you get to 15 or 20 years, you want to double it because you're going to have more free time. So think big, guys. And I'll let you guys know we've got about a minute to go. About a minute to go, guys. So start wrapping it up on your lifestyle side. And once you are done, I'd love to see in the chat, what is the lifestyle goal that inspires you the most, that you're most excited about? Now, for me, on my roadmap, I'd always had owning acreage. I always wanted to have acreage so I could build an animal sanctuary, and I had it on my roadmap to achieve in 5 years. And not only was I able to achieve it sooner, we bought our dream home in October last year after spending 9 months traveling around Australia on a four-wheel drive. We've been able to bring it forwards, and we've already got our animal sanctuary up and running. So that was a big one for me. Now we want to build a retreat center so we can bring entrepreneurs here and get them to experience the farm life. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So what's the lifestyle goal that lights you up the most? Let us know in the chat. Six-month travel overseas, Marion. I love that. Fantastic. I'm chewing at the bit to go overseas. Haven't been overseas in a long time pre-COVID, so need to get out there. Jacqueline, travel the world as a speaker. Beautiful, fantastic, awesome, guys. Keep them coming. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip to the other side, the financial side, because the reality is money and finance is a means to an end. It is what will enable your lifestyle. So what we want to look at is on the financial side, what does your financial position need to look like to support that lifestyle? And what are the other financial goals that you might have that are independent from that? So is it owning your dream home? Is it having it paid off? Is it building a multi-property portfolio? Is it about creating passive income? Is it about setting the kids up to get into the property market or put them through school or whatever it might be? We're going to put 5 minutes on the clock. And I want you to get at least one financial goal and do your best to quantify it. So if you want to buy your home in 5 years, how much does it cost today? If you want to create passive income, how much do you think you'd need a month or a year? Do your best to try and quantify it, even if it is a little bit of a guess. We can firm this up as we go. So get stuck in, guys. So we're about halfway on the financial side. You should be at about 10 years. Once again, just try and quantify those financial goals as best as you can. And that's going to help us reverse engineer this into a roadmap. I'll let you go. I'll let you guys know we've got about a minute to go. All right, guys, we've got about a minute to go. If you are done on the financial side, let me know in the chat, what is the financial goal that you are most excited about? Owning 50 gyms, Patrick. I love that. Fantastic. Marion, 5 mil turnover, 20% net profit in 5 years. Beautiful. Jess, buy back my dad's property we sold when he got sick. That's a beautiful goal. I love that. Jacqueline, 20 Bitcoin mining machines. Fantastic. You're going to become the next Bitcoin magnate. I love it. Delia, 4 investment properties. Beautiful. Fantastic. So, guys, we literally spent 10 minutes on this. Like, looking at what you've got in front of you, what is your light bulb moment from just spending this time going through this format? What's been most valuable so far? Focus and planning. Yeah, it's the cornerstone of everything, Craig, right? And the problem is that most people make this far more difficult than what it needs to be. And this is simple. Clarity, Marion. Beautiful. David, creating the space to decide what's important. Exactly. We just need that little bit of space. Take a breath, think about it, and then we can charge forwards again. But we can charge forwards with confidence. Miriam, taking the time out to actually think about the future. Yes, get out of the grind. So imagine if you spent 90 minutes a quarter doing this. Because I'm sure, like, I know the first time I did this, I stared at a blank page for hours. I'm like, wow, what do I even want? And it was pretty emotional, to be honest, because I'm like, wow, like, who even am I? I've been so busy just working hard. That was my identity. I didn't even know what I was chasing. But through doing this repetitively, each and every single quarter, it got clearer, it got more detailed, things got removed, things got added, things shifted, and things changed. But the overarching outcome of doing this myself is that every single year I have achieved 90% or more that I've set out to achieve. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take out your source of truth in terms of how you run your life. Is it your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, whatever you use? And I want you to go and set a recurring 90-minute meeting that we're going to call the annual roadmap refresh. After this session, I'm going to share all of these slides and everything with you guys so you can have the tools, have PDFs, stuff like that. But I want you to set a recurring reminder for 90 minutes a quarter indefinitely into the future. 90 minutes to go through some reflections, to ask yourself what you would like, to redo your roadmap. And I'm also going to give you some formulas to use to see how you're tracking. So go block that out now and let me know in the chat once that is blocked out. Now, please block it out at a time that you're not going to make an excuse. Don't do it when it conflicts with, say, one of David's mastermind sessions or something. We know where we should be. Do it at a time that you go, cool, this is in the diary. I can commit to it. Let's go block it out now. Let me know when you're done. Awesome, mate. Good work. Awesome. Jacqueline, fantastic. Another 30 seconds for everyone else. Let's get it done. Get it locked in. Fantastic, Tim. This will change your life. Fantastic, guys. Beautiful. Alrighty. For those of you who are just still setting that up, keep doing so. Let us know once you've got that sorted. So we're going to start trying to land this plane, guys. I know we've covered a lot of ground, and I want this to be as actionable and insightful for you guys as we possibly can. So the big question that we're going to have, and I'm sure all of you are thinking it when you look at your roadmap, is you're like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. How much do I actually need to achieve financial freedom? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to guesstimate on an annual basis, how much passive income do you think you'd need to have coming in per year in order to live the quality of life that you truly desire? Is it 100 grand a year? Is it 150? Is it 200? Is it 400? Is it more? Is it less? What do you think you'd need in passive income to have freedom of choice? To be able to choose not to have to work anymore? For me personally, it's about 200 grand a year. What's your number? Chuck it up in the chat. 200K? It's a good number. And if yours is different, that's fine too. I want everyone to have a number because we're going to need it for the next exercise. 400K, beautiful. 250, Craig, beautiful, great. Now, 300, Marion, amazing. Now, how much wealth do you think you need to have to produce that amount of passive income? If you have to have a guess, just have a stab in the dark. Okay? Okay, cool. All right. Let me give you the simplest financial freedom formula you will ever need. We call this the F3 formula. I want you to write this down, guys. F3 divided by 5 and times by 100 equals net wealth. F3 divided by 5 times by 100 equals net wealth. Now, F3 is your financial freedom figure, that number that you've just put as your passive income target. So for me, $200,000 a year in passive income would require me to have $4 million in net wealth. So once you've written down the formula, I want you to chuck that number. What is your net wealth figure in the chat based on this formula? About 8 mil. $7.2, cool. And how do you feel about that number, guys? Achievable? Sounds a bit big? Bit of a stretch? On track? How are you feeling? A bit daunting? And that's okay. Horrified, Claire? That's okay. Look, for most people, they have a come to Jesus moment when they see this number. They go, oh shit, sounds exciting. But this is why this is important, guys. When we can define the destination, we can reverse engineer it backwards to create a pathway to get there. Because quite simply, and unfortunately, the financial services industry has been created under the guise of complexity to make you scared. But it's actually really, really simple. There are three levers that you can pull to get you from where you are to achieving that net wealth target. Number one is how much can you afford to contribute? So, of the money that you earn, how much is yours to keep that you can commit to investments? Two, how much risk are you prepared to take? So if you keep all your money sitting in cash right now, not only is the interest rate crap, but it's going backwards with inflation. On the flip side, you could go and invest in cryptocurrency, but it's highly volatile. So you might get a bazillion% return, but you could also lose everything too, right? So it's about understanding what is your tolerance to risk. And thirdly, how long are you prepared to wait? Pretty simple, right? So I'm going to give you guys a resource. We're going to have a little bit of a play around with this today. Just quickly, so I can help you crunch these numbers. I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to give you guys a calculator that basically allows us to crunch these numbers very, very simply, very basically. I'm going to share my screen. If you click on that link, it'll take you through to a calculator that looks like this. Once you've got here, just let me know once it's open so I can talk you through how to use it. And we're going to have a little bit of a play around with it together. So just drop in the chat. Yep, once it's open. Beautiful. Cool. Fantastic. All right. So first thing we're going to do is I want you to put in the current account balance, I want you to put in your current investment assets. I want you to exclude your home, if you own your home, and your business, okay? So what you would include is any investment assets, property shares, superannuation, anything that is going to be used to create wealth, okay? So let's say for argument's sake, it's 300,000, okay? Now, I want you to put in the savings goal as your net wealth target. So in my case, it was 4 million, okay? And I want you all to start with an interest rate of 8%. And the reason why I use 8% is that we can go and get a low-cost, diversified index fund that since inception has returned on average of 8% per year. It is not complicated or difficult to have a diversified portfolio that has historically produced 8%. And the last thing I want you to do is I want you to say, okay, how much do I believe I can afford to contribute to my wealth creation monthly? So in this case, if I did say I could only put $1,000 a month, it would take me 27 years and 11 months to get to my goal. So I want you to do this for yourself. And just let me know in the chat, based on your scenario one, without doing anything else than just what we've just explained, let me know how many years it's going to take you to get to your goal. I'm just going to give you guys a couple of minutes to go through that. And once you're done, just chuck it straight up in the chat. 20 years and 5 months. Cool. How do you feel about that, Kelly? Did we want it faster? Oh, that sounds all right. Yeah. I think you're one of the 2 out of 3 that wanted the marshmallow now, right? Yeah. Damien, 20 years. Cool. All right. 26 years. I hope not, Stephen, but let's try and get there faster anyway, okay? So we've had our first scenario, 34 years. Yep. Not great, right? 5 years, 8 months. Beautiful, Rob. Great. That sounds good. But maybe we can still optimize. So your current investment balance, you can't change that. It is what it is. So really, all you can change is the goal, the rate of interest, or the contribution. Now, out of those 3 things, the goal, the rate of return, or the contribution, which one do you have the most control over, do you believe, as a business owner? Because we can't control the markets, right? Sure, we can try and get investments that outperform. But yeah, the biggest one's the deposit. So keep adjusting that regular deposit until you are happy with the time frame. So for example, for me, in this particular example, maybe I want to get there in 10 years. I'm nearly there, 17,500. And it might sound like a huge number, but that's okay. There's some cool strategies that we can use that gets us there a whole lot faster. But this is our worst case scenario. So keep pulling that deposit lever until we've come up with a number, and just let me know in the chat, how much do you think you need to be contributing to be happy with the time frame? At 10K, cool. And do you think that's achievable? Or would something need to change? Cool. 18K, 15K, 20K. So the reality here is, guys, we take this number, reverse engineer it into an income target. Then we work out the profit target. And then David and the team can support you to work out exactly what you would need to do in your business, the activity, the KPIs, the metrics that you need to hit to connect all of your activity to the outcomes that you're truly passionate about. How much more enjoyable does it become when we're really clear on the exact levers that need to be pulled to get us to the destination? Pretty powerful, right? So guys, let's land this plane. We've covered a lot of ground. Yeah, it's a big relief because most of us are walking in the dark financially. How hard is it to find where you're going and not stub your bloody toe and not be tentative when you're stumbling around in the dark? We've got to turn on those financial lights. So we've covered a lot of ground. We've gone through the money traps. We've gone through your money memories. We've gone through what you would like, 20-year roadmap, your F3 figure, and your 3 main levers. What's been most valuable and what are going to be your next best steps to make the most of the time that you've invested here today? Just let me know in the chat. Beautiful, Damien. Figure out how to get that monthly amount. Fantastic. Start with my business projections. Yes, beautiful. It's exactly what we need to be doing. Build the plan to reach that monthly target. Awesome. Need for a better plan. Perfect. Increase the monthly amount. Yep. Connecting the dots between profit and wealth. Exactly. David, I need a pay rise. Sorry, Dave. But here's the great thing, guys, right? And look, we
Jackson, you're fired. You're fired.
No, I'm sorry, mate. I facilitate this in a lot of businesses, and you can do this with your staff too. Because imagine if your staff could come to you and say, hey, this is my goal. This is how much I need to earn. And then you as the boss can turn around and say, hey, cool, I'm happy to pay you that, but this is how much value you need to generate for my business in order to earn that kind of money.
Can I just jump in, Jackson, for a second?
Please, mate. Yes.
Like we have got a few employees on this call as well. And really what you've done here is a magnificent job of creating space. And, you know, one of my biggest beliefs is people get paid what they're worth. And I love it when people ask for a pay rise, because one of my pain points when you were talking about pain points was when I had my first job and I had to get a pay rise because I had kids. They're expensive, right? And it was the most demoralizing moment of my life because I asked for a pay rise and I got told no, because I was in a very public environment, which meant the only way to get a pay rise was through seniority or someone leaving or dying. And it sort of took me aback, and I was about 22 years old at the time. And I walked away saying, I'm never, ever going to ask for a pay rise again. Wow. And what I did, and what you've just described here, is I made a connection between, if I want to make more money, I'll become more valuable. You've connected the dots between the income coming out of the business and a place where it can be stored, which is passive income. And I love the way you've sort of been conservative in the savings goal, saying, well, just go to a bank and put it in long term, you'll get your 8%. There's better ways if you're willing to take the risk. But giving people that connection between, well, I need to be putting away money, and this is why, has been super powerful. So,
fantastic. That's exactly right. I'm a big believer in taking the least amount of risk necessary to achieve the goal. And if we can get more, then we're going to get that a whole lot faster.
Yeah.
So I hope this has been valuable, guys. So I wanted to share some resources with you. Hopefully these will be of continued value. Obviously, these are tools that you can add to your kit bag, but a good idea in theory remains exactly that, just a good idea until you put it into place. So first things first, connect with me on Facebook. I produce content every day about crazy farm stuff and also wealth stuff. So I try and keep things interesting. This is about keeping these concepts top of mind and relevant for you, because otherwise life resumes and things get in the way. Second thing, make sure you complete that scorecard. The wealth health check is super important to help you work out where is the low-hanging fruit. I guarantee there is at least a handful of things that are going to be worth tens of thousands, potentially even hundreds of thousands or more if you implement them. We've got a free Facebook group, so if you want to get access to copies of my best-selling books, any other resources, you can grab that and self-implement. And of course, if anything's hit a chord and you'd like to have a chat, love to support in any way I can, and just help you level up your money game. So we've got a bit of time for any questions. Does anyone want to take themselves off mute, ask any questions, just say as you type it in the chat? Or if you want to share some takeouts, love to hear them as well. Don't be shy, guys. No such thing as a silly question.
Jackson, it's Marion here.
G'day, Marion.
I'm just wondering, you're so young. How did you do it so quickly? Like you kind of touched on how things kind of changed, but still, you apparently got a pretty big business. So I'm interested to know a bit more about how you did it.
Yeah, what's really interesting is I was on the verge of going bankrupt. And when my dad died, he left a monstrous amount of debt. I had an e-commerce business at the time that was not doing very well, and I ended up really finding myself in multiple six figures of bad debt and nearly hitting that big red reset button. The big thing that shifted for me is I made a commitment to being in the driver's seat, being the architect of my future. And I committed fully to developing this process, getting clear on how I was going to get myself out of that pretty shit situation and getting myself back on track. And I was able to, as a result of following these frameworks, creating the roadmap, reverse engineering it backwards, I paid off all of my bad debt in about 18 months. And then I was able to then use my business as a wealth creation vehicle to then systematically turn my business profit into personal wealth. So this is now my fourth seven-figure business. And we started our business about 4 years ago. And yeah, it's already at 6 mil. So the most important thing was the roadmap and being clear on what my drivers were. Money doesn't motivate me. It is the lifestyle, what I'm doing here on the sanctuary and all of these great things, that money allows me to do that. And it's when I could discover that superpower and channel it, everything changed for me. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, guys?
What specific decision led to the biggest increase in your income or revenue? Like a financial decision or even business, strategic decision, whatever.
Great question. Charging what I was worth. Working with a business coach like David, having someone in my corner that could get me out of my own head. And because I was really clear on what I was trying to achieve, and the biggest limiting factor was the growth of my business profits, I'd been in this vicious cycle of just chasing more volume. Hey, I just need to get more clients. And I had a mentor like David who said to me, Jackson, like, you're worth so much more than this. You deliver all of this great value. Just charge what you're bloody worth. And since developing that mindset of being abundant in my pricing and always charging a premium price, because when you charge a premium price, people get premium value. When people pay, they pay attention, and when they pay a lot, they pay a lot of attention. And that's been the principle that I've used to scale my business and my wealth very quickly.
Thank you. And thanks for today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, mate. Let's take one last question before we wrap up, guys.
Sounds to me like you got them all answered.
Fantastic. Beautiful, guys. Well, hope this has been of value. David and the team, thank you so much for inviting me. And looking forward to seeing how you guys continue to grow using what we've spoken about today. So wishing you all the best in pursuit of financial freedom.
Yeah, look, Jackson, before you wrap up, I suppose, first of all, thank you, right? Because I was sitting there at the start going, this is slow and painful. And then I realized that actually people needed space to actually sit down and to think about money, because money is always a very emotional topic. And I think when people are asked questions around money, it's very sensitive. We don't talk about money. You know, when you talk about beliefs around, you know, when I was a kid, we never talked about money. And I feel that sometimes in business, people use that as their decision-making criteria for why they don't charge enough, why they never make ends meet, and why they don't actually allow themselves to be successful. So I think part of what you just answered in those two questions was literally about getting out of your own way. And I think there's a lot to be said, and it doesn't matter whether you're in a job or in a business. I think, you know, there was a book written years ago called You Incorporated, and it was written by the real estate guy at the time. I cannot think of his name. It'll come to me shortly. And it was brilliant, right? Because it said, you represent yourself to a marketplace and you get paid what you're worth. You want to become more valuable, you act in accordance with what that value needs to be, and part of its mindset. So really appreciate you giving people the space today, giving them the connection between their business profit and their wealth creation, because that's the missing link for a lot of people. Asking people about, you know, what their freedom goals are. So what are their lifestyle goals? And then connecting the dots between that and financials.